Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel. I am a labor and delivery nurse by day, and all the other moments, I read books. I don't know if you can tell, but I had a little switch out in the background, so there is now a third large bookshelf. Could no longer fit everything on my too large and a small. So I moved my small bookshelf over. It's just to my right. And I've got like my TBR and the books that I have read in like the current month on that bookshelf. And then behind me, I now have room for more. So I left a lot of space in the blues because there's so many blue books. I have almost 2 full rows of blue books. There's green on this, and then on the far, like the bottom is purple, but blue, it just dominates. So, and obviously there's a ton of black. If you want, at some point I can do a bookshelf tour, but it would be me talking about almost every single book because I love all of these books up here. It took me a while to replace all the books because I just love them so much. So yeah, little bit different in the background. Maybe you didn't even notice. They're so color coordinated. I don't know a time that I will ever switch to not color coordinated. It's just so pleasing to the eyes, and I feel like even when you have them in genres, it's sometimes hard to find what you want anyway. So at least now I can find it by color. And I really am pretty good at remembering what spine colors are. So yeah, the ones that are a little tricky are like the Unhoneymooners. That's like a super yellow cover and then a blue spine, like those things. But I remember that. The other thing about this video is normally I take Mabel's collar off before I start this. Here she comes. But she was not near me when I started. So you're going to hear Mabel noises and Mabel collar. Sorry. She's delightful. Here she is. I don't know why she suddenly decided that she needed to eat just now. But here's Mabel in her Valentine collar. So she's around. All right, January reading. It was such a good January month. I feel like January is normally just like an month because I feel like I'm reading things that I feel like I need to read or books that I've been given. I don't know. I just felt like the books I read, even the ones that I felt like I needed to read, were good. They were at least an interesting time, even if they weren't good. So to start with, I did a lot of audiobooks, and I will explain why in a minute. But so Grady Hendrix, How to Sell a Haunted House. This book is weird. All of his books are weird, but they're normally my kind of weird. So I feel like I either really like them or I hate them, and there's no in between. So this is Puppets. Puppets are evil. And it's a gruesome tale. If you've read my best friend's Exorcism, or what's the Southern, it's like the book club's guide to slaying vampires, something about Southern book club, I don't know, gruesome, but still I don't know, it was still an entertaining story. Right, it kept going right when I thought how is this gonna keep going? There was more. Look, I've never been a fan of puppets. I'm not gonna start now. So creepy, but well done. Way to make us scared of puppets. It was well done. So I gave that one 4 stars. And the brother-sister story, which I literally hated so much in the beginning because it's an awful relationship, the way that it bloomed was so, really added to the story. So that is the reason it probably got 4 stars and not just 3. The puppets are so creepy. So creepy. Ugh. So creepy. Then I read a book that has been on my TBR for a very long time. I had it on hold as an ebook, in my library as an ebook, and those are the last way that I get to a book. So I just purposely want to get through I want to get through all my the ebooks and all the things that have been on my TBR for a really long time, or just kick them off my TBR, because if I don't want to read them, I don't need to. So From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout. Yeah, so this was on there because it's fantasy and like also romance. I gave it a 3. I don't think it was written very well. Like I liked the overall storyline. It just wasn't written very well. Yeah. I liked the end and like the reveal of like the mythical creatures and what's like actually happening. I don't know if I will continue the series. I feel like there's better fantasy out there, especially in the year of Fourth Wing, right? Like, sorry. So yeah, I gave it 3 out of 5, and I did give it 4 out of 5 chili peppers for spice. So the way that this is my new like reading tracker. I love it so much. So for the month, you like say what you read and like how you read it and the page numbers, and then they also have spice. So How to Sell a Haunted House had 0 spice, so I did not give it a chili rating. But so I gave it a spice rating, and in the beginning I had to say like what my spices were. I have a hard time remembering. 4 chilies is blushing. So like when I was listening to it, I was blushing. And the 5 chili peppers is sweating, in case you wanted to know. So 1 chili pepper is like fade to black. So like, you know they did something. 2 chili peppers is a good makeout. 3 chili peppers is not fade to black. 4 is blushing. 5 is sweating. So if I'm sweating because of a written word, then it's spicy. Okay? Because sometimes it is surprising the feelings you can have from an audiobook, right? Okay, The Bomber Mafia by Malcolm Gladwell. This was a short, like 5 hours maybe story. So Malcolm Gladwell, he writes Outliers, a bunch of different, I don't remember what the other ones are, but they're very good. So he's like a social psychologist or something. But he writes nonfiction that are super entertaining. Very good. So this is actually the history of the Air Force, because the Air Force started just as like planes in the Army because nobody thought aviation was going to be part of wars, and hence this story. So yeah, this is the start of precision bombing and napalm. Very interesting. So I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't necessarily on a topic that I'm like super enthralled with, but it was good. I am a Pearl Harbor girl. That's like one of my favorite movies. Love it. So very interesting. Then I listened to Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, because for my buzzword-thon, like every month has something like in the title or something you're supposed to read. So there. Were the 3 different types of there were supposed to be in the title. So Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret was one that I've never listened to this book. I've never read it. I've heard of it my entire life because I grew up when this was a book. And so I listened to it. It was a few hours. It was delightful. It was like, it really brought me back to my childhood. Especially the we must increase our bust. Love it so much. The little girls group and learning about menstruation. I feel like this is probably why we weren't allowed to read, or was like discouraged, or I think it was on some banned books lists when I was young because of menstruation. But yeah, it was delightful. It was just very like, very much inside the mind of a preteen girl. So accurate. So I gave it 4 stars, mostly for nostalgia, but it was also written very well. I liked it. And I listened to, see how many audiobooks there are in a row? I'll tell you why. So A Sky Beyond the Storm is the 4th and last book in the Ember and the Ashes series. So our main characters in the first book, the one is part of the Scholars, which is like the lowest in the caste system. They're like the servants. And our other main, so that's her. And then our other main character is like the son of the most powerful woman in the army, but she's evil. So they're like keeping people down. And then there's jinn that are coming for their power. So a lot of like magical beings, magic, but also like war and politics and some romance. So this got a 1 for spice. So it's like fade to black. I thought it ended the series well. So I gave it 4 stars. It was a good series. It's a hard, like, I know what happened in the story, but it's hard to like sum up because it is so much, like, in the beginning there's like a challenge, like a fight that they get like one of the challengers wins like this role. And then people die, people come back to life. There's all these myths and things. If you like fantasy, I feel like it's a good story. My hair is doing strange things right now, so sorry. Yeah. It's real staticky because I tried on all of my summer wardrobe today, and so just so much clothing went over the head. So this. Whew. Anyway, it's really cute. I love it so much. Okay. My next book. So these books were like, I got a lot of 4 stars, but also not like anything super amazing, right? So I'm not really on fire yet. I read We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. This was recommended by, I think Alexandra Roslin is a booktuber. I think she recommended this. It's like a YA. The girl's grandfather has died and she's dealing with like mental health issues. It was good. I think if I read it, I would have paid more attention to it. I don't think I was the audience. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't bad. I just wasn't super into it. Yeah, so the main character's grandpa dies and she deals with like family secrets and going to college. Yeah. Switching gears. So good. Okay. I thought this was going to be good because I love the author, but I had no idea how good it was going to be. Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I did not finish watching The Queen's Gambit. When she started getting into the drugs, I just didn't care that much anymore. But this, I've never cared about chess so much in my life. So our main character is named Mallory, and she's done with chess because of drama with her dad. We don't know what the drama is, but she enters a chess competition like in a group for her friend and ends up like winning it because she's like amazing at chess. This is like the world's chess champion. And there's some love, there's some sparks, it's so good. This book is so good. I loved it. So I gave it 5 stars. This is maybe my favorite book of the month. It just was so delightful, and I could basically read it in one sitting because it's like a YA delight. So this is the high that I've been chasing after reading The Love Hypothesis. Okay? Because that is her first, right? That's her first one. That was so freaking good. And I feel like her other books, they're good, but not as good as The Love Hypothesis in this one. Like the banter, the interactions, it was so good. And it's YA. I love YA. Ugh, so good. I gave it a 2 on the Spice rating. So appropriate YA. There's some good makeouts in there. I then listened to That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. This has also been recommended by some booktubers, and it just didn't do it for me. So I gave it a 3. It was like a journey fantasy. I don't love journeys. Sometimes they're still good. I just didn't I just didn't love it. I don't know. The girl was like too much of a badass. Like, I didn't love it. But if you like dirty fantasy, because this one was dirty, I gave it a 4. I don't know. I just thought the sex scenes were the only good part. And I'm looking for a little bit more story. So I don't feel like I'm reading porn, you know? Then I read the second book in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. So Good Girl, Bad Blood. The first I gave 5 stars to, and it was on my favorites video from last year. Just like a really good YA thriller. It's kind of like Pretty Little Liars meets, I don't know, like a podcast. So it's just good. So our main character, there was a murder that she solved in book 1, and now in book 2 she's dealing with the fallout of that and like the broken trust and relationships that she's had from that. And then her friend's sister goes missing. Sorry, brother. Her friend's brother goes missing, and now she's asked to help find him, but she's dealing with all sorts of like trauma from the last murder case, and she doesn't really want to get involved. Then she does, and she's kind of an obsessive person. So this was also, I think I gave this one 5 stars. Yeah, 5 stars. They're just good. And like, gosh, I love YA because you just can get through it so fast. And this is like a mixed media. So there's like podcasts, there's interviews, there's like text from like Instagram kind of a thing. So it feels like it reads faster because it's not just words on a page. I have had this book on my TBR for such a long time. I don't even know who recommended it or why it was there. So I finally purchased it just because I wanted to read it. And it was good. It was an ice skating romance. And I grew up with ice skating. So I did not ice skate as a child, but I grew up with an obsession with ice skaters. Michelle Kwan, anyone? Nancy Kerrigan? So from Luke Off with Love is our main character's partner in partner skating is a dick, so they break up. And her nemesis asks her to be his partner. Enemies to lovers? Ice skating? Love it. Love it. I gave it a 4 just because it was a little like repetitive. I don't feel like it was written super well, but I love the story. The banter was pretty good. Love the ice skating. So this is such a random book, but from Luke Off with Love. I feel like ice skating romance. Don't know that it's that much of a genre, but should it be? Maybe it should. And I gave it a 3 on the chili scale, which is not Fade to Black. Okay. Speaking of slutty books, Kate, number 4 in the Madison Kate series. I don't feel like I can even talk about this one. Our main character was sold as a wife by her dad. And now she's in love with 3 men, and she has sexcapades with all 3 of them. And the last chapter is all 3 of them at once. I gave it 4 for story and 5 for spice. I will say no more. But if you like reverse harem and some very explicit, dirty things, then Kate might be the book for you. Overall, it was a pretty good series. I don't know how one manages 3 men. Or how they're not, like, jealous of each other at all. Like, it makes me uncomfy to think about that. So I'm just going to leave it there. My next book was just very, very much switching gears. I think these were, like, at the same time. So A Super Sweet Story Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I am currently reading her backlog books because I love everything that she writes. I think her newest one was Carrie Soto's Back. I think that's the most recent one that I have read. Forever Interrupted is a story of Elsie. I think it's Elsie. Yeah, Elsie Porter is a librarian, and she meets Ben, and they have a whirlwind romance, fall in love, and then 9 days after they marry, after they elope, he is killed in an accident. So this deals with grief. It deals with like moving on, and it deals with how long do you have to know someone before you know them? Like, is a few months enough to actually know a person and be important in their life? And it was just told very well. It was very sweet. I love her writing. I don't know. I feel like her books are very like matter of fact. Like they're not like extremely like prosy or descriptive, but she in her writing like just shows you everything without even writing it. I don't know. It's just like, it's like poetic without being poetic. I love her writing. She makes you feel things without being like, she was so sad. Like it just, I gave it a 4. I don't know. Yeah, gave it a 4. Then I read, my cousin's wife wrote Skate Cute, a Sacriola Sweethearts novel. So this was released like a year or 2 ago. She sent me the copy to read, and it's because it's an ebook, I just forget about it. So like 2 years later, I have finally read it. This is a very sweet story between a scientist astronomist? Sorry, you're gonna hate me. Who is also a skater. So she's working on her PhD, and she's skating. Sorry, I'm getting a phone call. And like she's back in her hometown. I'm gonna say again, she's rollerblading, and the firemen can see her. So the firemen are romantically after her. It's a sweet love story. There's a little like stalking and arson involved as well. I gave it a 4. And I feel so good to have finally read it. Because every time I open my email, it'd be like, oh shoot, I still haven't read that. I read the next book in it's like Erin Falk series by Jane Harper. I think this is number 3. I liked the first 2. The first one I think was the best. Was it Dry? I think was the first one. So I don't know. They're like a very slow mystery, like they feel very low stakes, and then I feel like the last few chapters it suddenly like picks up and gets good. So I gave it 3 stars just because it feels very low stakes until then. You have no idea. There's like all these weird coincidences and they don't really tie together. And then like suddenly in the last few chapters, it's good. But it also seems weird that I'm pretty sure this is the hometown that he did another investigation in and like didn't investigate this while it was happening. It was weird. It's like this mom's been missing for over a year and he helps figure it out. But I don't know. I don't know that I would recommend this one. I think I had to do some rewinding just to even figure out what I was listening to. And now we come to the reason that I listened to so many audiobooks and read so little. It's because I was reading this book at the same time. So The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is a 1,000-page book. And I mean, these are like thin pages because it's really not that thick of a book. Like it's no thicker than like a Harry Potter, but the pages are so thin. There are 4 main characters and it does a lot. It's a weapon. It does so much world building. So I have to say that it took me a while to get into this, and I still was like, I don't know. I just don't know if I'm going to like love this series. It's going to be kind of a slog. And I feel like halfway through, I stopped feeling like I was reading it out of obligation. And then the end wow, did that wrap it up. Just like, I feel like I'm very bought into the characters now. I feel like the twist at the end was just like, I need to see what happens. And I was going to skip a month before I read the next one, but I might have to read the next one. So I'm reading another pretty thick one right now for a book club. And after that, I might have to start the next one just because I'm excited to see where this goes. So this is like super hard to try to tell you about. So there are warring kingdoms, and the one kingdom we don't know that much about. The other is one of our main characters is on that side and fighting. So he is, I gotta think of what all their names are. So he is like he's like a prince. Yeah, so he's a high prince. His nephew is the king. His brother was the king before, but was murdered. We also follow the assassin of the king. And we follow, the one character is Dalinar, the high prince. And like his son is kind of like a character as well that we follow. Then we follow a bridgeman. So he is a slave. He brings bridges to battle. So there's these big, like they're fighting on these, they call them the Shattered Plains. And they bring bridges so the armies can cross to fight. And so I think it's Kaladin. I have to find all their names. Yeah, Kaladin is our slave, who's a bridgeman, who brings bridges to the wars, but he's got a little something going on, okay? He becomes like bigger and bigger as the story goes on. So you're like watching him like transform. Very interesting. Then we have Shalyn, I believe is our girl. Yes, Shalyn is going to try to be Dalinar's niece, so the old king's daughter. She's trying to go and be like her apprentice because she wants to steal from her. So they're like the scholars. So they're like, that's kind of how we're learning our lore. And then there's, what's the fourth point of view? The surgeon, the assassin. And the high prince. Okay. So it says there's 4 that we're watching. So the first is the surgeon. So that's the bridgeman, the slave. He grew up raised by a surgeon. The second is the assassin, a murderer who weeps as he kills. The third is a liar. So the young woman who wears a scholar's mantle. And the last is the high prince, a warlord whose eyes have been opened to the past. So there is so much going on in this story. Like, it had to be 1,000 pages just to get you the information that you needed. And there is still so much we don't know. So the way that this lore is going to work out is so cool. So the high prince is getting like these visions of the past. He thinks he's not sure. He thinks he's going crazy. Sounds like it happened to his brother before he died as well. There's all this like history that was lost. There were the Knights Radiant that had powers and they had special armor, and one day they just like laid down all their stuff and left. Ugh. I'm excited, guys. I gave it 5 stars because the end was so good that like this was maybe a 3-star book halfway through, but it was this is what epic fantasy is for. You have to have this big of a book because you have so much world to build, and it was worth it. It was worth it. And I can't wait to read the next one. I think the next one is Words of Radiance, and I'm excited. It's just so big. So I don't know if I'm going to read that in February. It seems too big for February. February is a small month, and I'm going on a trip at the end. So I don't think I can commit to that. So if you like epic fantasy and you want to commit to a big read, I can't vouch for the whole series yet, but that one was great. Yeah. So for book club, we're going to a book club retreat starting tomorrow. I'm excited. And we're going to talk about my life solving America's Cold Cases by Paul Holes. So Unmasked is the title. So this is a story of how he's like I think he's like a forensic analyst for the FBI or works with them. I'm sorry. This was a really riveting book. I listened to it while I was doing a bunch of other things. So I didn't get all of the details, but it was very interesting. Very graphic. So he talks about some of his cases, but like kind of the overarching theme is the Golden State Killer. Because he kind of keeps coming back to it. And yeah, this is a memoir about catching murderers. And like a lot of like how like DNA became like a like really pivotal part of solving cases, murders. And there's a little sprinkle in there of how like, he mismanaged his family and he's kind of obsessive, which is why he I think solved so many cases, but also he's sacrificed family along the way, which is very sad. So, a true memoir. I gave it 4 stars. Then I read it. So this book had a lot of pressure on it, which is why I didn't want to read it, because I feel like books by Adrienne Young are always a 4 or a 5 star for me. I've had one disappointment, I think, from her whole catalog. Fable and Namesake are 2 YAs that I just love. And she's now writing adult. And I read Spells for Forgetting. I gave it 5 stars. And I loved it so much because they're like magical without being overtly magical. So like a little speculative, like just a little wisp of like nature magic or something that is so beautiful. And so this was a book of the month. I've heard good things about it, but I really hate to read a book that you think is going to be amazing and then it isn't. It was 5 out of 5. There were multiple times that I just would like reread how she wrote things because it was just so beautiful. Like she just would tell things that were so beautiful. And now I thought to myself, I really should write one of those down. But like, okay, so little things like this. She was in Eamon's arms second later, and I got to my feet, tucking the locket watch back into my shirt. It stung where it brushed my skin, as if Annie's touch had electrified it somewhere. There's just so many, like you feel what she's feeling. And this storyline is so good. Our main character is, what are they? The Pharaohs. June Farrow. The women in her family are cursed they go mad. And so her grandmother has died in the very beginning, and there's messages for her. She's starting to have like weird flashes. She's having visions of things. So it's starting. So it started about a year ago for June, and the storyline is so good. So then we find out, I don't know that I want to give this away. I just want to make sure. Time travel. But not like explicit time travel. I don't feel like I can tell you more. This book is so good. It's so good. And it's relatively short. But it's magical, and it's about love, and there's a mystery, and there's a murder. I just thought it was so well done. This could be one of my favorite books of this year. It was so beautiful. What did I write? Yeah, so I said the imagery and magic in the words made the story even more magical. I love the high stakes and the memories and the family and the time travel. And the romance was the cherry on top. So I gave it a 2 spice rating. I think there was some like fade to black. 5 star. Absolutely. Adrienne Young. So I do think now she is a favorite author. I didn't include her on my list before because I didn't realize how much I love her books, but specifically her 2 adult books that I've read, The Spells for Forgetting and The Unmaking of June Farrow, were both 5 out of 5 stars. So good. I have been needing to read All's Well. This has been in my TBR. So this year I'm trying to work through my things that have been on my TBR the longest. If I don't read them this year, I want to just get rid of them because why am I keeping them? I have been waiting to read this because I bought it when Bunny by Mona Awad was super popular. I bought both of them. And since then I've read Bunny, and Bunny felt like I was on acid while I was reading it. And I don't like that. I thought it did what it needed to do, but I wasn't about to get into another acid trip book. And so I've been delaying it. So I read it. I think if you liked Bunny, you're going to love this book. So our main character is an actress who fell off the stage and injured herself. She has a ton of chronic pain and a lot of people telling her it's all in her head. It's all in her head. She makes a deal with someone, like unsure whether she was like super, super drunk and imagined this on drugs or if she made like a deal with the devil. And when she like touches a student, she gives them her pain and no longer has it. The ethics of that are ridiculous. Sorry. But yes, you feel like you're on drugs or hallucinating for the book. It was incredibly readable. I gave it 4 stars because it did what it wanted to do. Like, this was a masterpiece in how it was written. I don't like this kind of writing though, because what am I supposed to get out of this? I don't like it. The main character is not likable. None of the characters are likable. What happens is just freaky. The outcome, I don't even know what happened at the end. But what a story. What a story. It did keep me reading. I wouldn't say it was enjoyable, but it was like twisted. So, if you like that, if you liked Bunny, you'll like All's Well. Drama in the theater. And some characters that you'll hate. I don't even think it's like a commentary on chronic pain. It's just ridiculous. And then technically I finished this book today, February 1st, but I'm counting it for January because I would have finished it last night if I could have kept my eyes open. But I also wanted to remember it because I liked it so much. So I gave this book I'm going to give this 4 stars. Ruthless Vows. This is the sequel to, oh my gosh, what is it called? Divine Rivals. So Iris and Roman are 2 competing columnists. So they're competing for a column at a newspaper. And when Roman is awarded the column, Iris goes off to be a war correspondent. Roman follows her. They are writing each other love letters on magical typewriters. And by the way, there is a war that the gods are waging against each other. So this is like very like World War I, but imagine instead of world powers fighting, it is gods. So this is the conclusion to the story. It's a little bit heftier than the first one. I think the first one's like 300 pages. This one's 400. Just incredibly readable. Like I started yesterday and was like, I'll just like read a little bit. And then I was like 25 pages in because it's just, even though the writing is not like, it's not big, it's just so readable. And there's letters and like articles. But it's well written. This is another like beautifully written book. You can tell that this writer just likes to write beautiful prose. She writes it so well. I liked the characters. I liked what was happening. I feel almost like this either should have been like more story. Like I felt like it wrapped up a little too quick, maybe in 2 books. Like there could have been more It seemed a little too easy, but also I liked it. So I'm giving it 4 stars just for that. Like, it just felt like there could have been a little bit more to make it that 5-star, but I don't know what that would have been. So I'm not going to be too critical. I really liked it. 4 stars. And that, oh, I forgot. I did a reread. So for book club, my other book club, we're reading The Devil in the Dark Water. This is like a 16-hour long book. This is by the author of The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, which I've given 5 stars to, I believe. I loved it. It was so good. I reread this. I would give this, yeah, it's like a 3 or a 4 star. So I would just say that it's a little bit repetitive and it's just so long. And then I remember having a hard time with it the first time as well. There's so many characters, and listening to it on audiobook, it just, like, the characters kind of ran together, and it was repetitive enough that I think I would be like, wait, I've heard that before. And then kind of like doubt, like, is it skipping, or am I reading the same thing again? Like, so point off for that. But like, who was doing the murder, like what was happening behind was very good. So 4 stars for a reread. And yeah, 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, I would highly recommend. But I also listened to an audiobook, and I had people read the book and say that was confusing, but I found the audiobook to be delightful for that one. So, and that's how I know it's pronounced Evelyn instead of Evelyn, because why would you pronounce it Evelyn? But that's how they pronounced it. Yeah, so those are my books. I think that was, so in order to hit my 180 book goal of the year, I wanted to read 15 books. So 1, 2, 3. I read 20. It was a good month. So yeah, I read 20 books, and I had 4 or 5 stars. And they were good ones from all different genres. So this was a great January. And February is going to be pretty much all romance. I started The Butcher and the Blackbird today, which is about serial killers falling in love. So I'm excited for that. And I will see you at the end of February. Bye!